bill in Congress that's attempting to double the Social Security checks of some government retired employees. And as a result of that, it's going to cut benefits for the rest of us. So let's talk about that today. My name is Ed Weir. I ran the third busiest Social Security office in the country. And my semi retirement here, my new mission in life is to get you all the benefits you're entitled to: Social Security, retirement, disability, survivor benefits, spouse benefits, all the rest of it. And with all the new changes, my other mission is to keep y'all updated on all the changes that are going to happen. There's going to be a lot of changes: the Supreme Court, new administration, new Congress. So let's see. I do a live Q&A several times a week. Make sure you join me, watch my videos, and reach out if you have any issues. So in a lot of videos out there, social media, newspapers, they're talking about there was an election night stunt that tried to derail this legislation. And was that good or was that bad? What happened? Let's talk about that today. And we are going to fact check this. So there are 6 facts that we're going to talk about that are pretty much undisputed. If you dispute them, make sure you type down in the comments what you disagree with, and we can definitely have a debate. But I've been doing this for a few decades, and I've talked to millions of people about this particular situation, and we'll talk about all the gory details. So this is focused on a certain component of retired government employees, local, state, county employees, some federal employees, but not that many. But it affects the rest of us. So we're talking about 6 different facts. 3 and 5 are very important for everybody else out there. All right. So what are we talking about? Fact number 1 is, if this legislation passes, they've been trying to pass this for years and years and years and years, it will double the checks for a very small number of retired government workers and their families. And as a result of that, it's going to reduce benefits for the rest of us. Why is that so? Well, it's called HR 82. It's a Social Security Fairness Act. Typical government. I don't see how this is fair. We'll talk about that. It eliminates the windfall elimination provision and the GPO. And for everybody else, you don't care about this. You just want to get into how this affects you. But I'm going to get into the details of what these are. It's basically these government workers who did not pay into Social Security, their benefits are calculated in a certain way that is different than everybody else's. And I'm at the very final fact 6. I'm going to get into the actual calculations and explain it. Again, I've done it several times on exactly why this should not be changed and why their benefits should not be doubled and therefore affect the rest of us. Because according to the Congressional Budget Office, if this act actually does pass, it's going to cost over $196 billion in additional Social Security benefits over the next decade. And because the trust fund looks to be running out about 2034, 2035, if this act passes, we're talking about a year earlier, and then more cuts. In terms of percentage, we're looking anywhere from 17 to 20% cuts as of today. If we don't do anything over the next few years, starting 2034 at the earliest, but if this act is passed, it just might be 2033. Again, I will explain all the calculations at the end of the detail, how the sausage is made. Most people are not interested, but for those government workers out there, I'll explain it one more time. Fact number 2, the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset do not reduce your Social Security benefits. That's the issue that these government workers, I paid into Social Security. Sure, I worked as a teacher or a fighter, a cop, or whatever the case may be. And why am my benefits being cut or reduced? They are not being cut. They are not being reduced. Anyone that says that is either misinformed, they're disingenuous, or worse, politicians, or whatever the case may be, trying to get votes. Fact number 3 is a lot of this, perhaps particularly in this election season, it's misdirection. This is how this usually happens. Look at this shiny, ball up here, and then they kind of pick your pockets down here. So this shiny ball that's happening right now, that's in all social media and on the news about this, Fairness Act, and it's being passed or it's not being passed. All the while, everybody out there losing benefits, and that's what I'm doing in my semi-retirement is helping you get the benefits you're entitled to. There are so many people that are not getting the spouse benefits, they're not getting the correct retirement benefits. They're not getting disability when they're supposed to. They're missing benefits. They're filing at the wrong time. Social Security is not helping. Social media is definitely not helping. You got too many people out there claiming to be experts on Social Security that never adjudicated a claim in their life, never worked at Social Security, never went through the 20,000 pages of policy. So there are a lot of people losing benefits every single day while we're focused on the shiny object over here. Another issue is right now, there's a deadline. Close to 2 million Medicare plans have been canceled for 2025. Medicare Advantage plans and Part D plans. And those plans have been canceled. And there's a lot of, I guarantee there's hundreds of thousand people out there that didn't get the word that their plans have been canceled. Or if your plan hasn't been canceled, your plan just might have been downgraded to such an extent because there's so many changes for 2025 that the companies are going back there and canceling people and downgrading plans. And if you actually look at your plan and read the fine print, you would cancel it yourself. And there's an opportunity in there to switch to a Medicare supplement plan. But so if you want to review your plan for 2025, make sure you reach out to my partners at Chapter Medicare. Give them a call. They'll do a 100% free review. Okay, let's get back to this other thing. But again, don't, watch out for those shiny objects that politicians and the rest of people try to, put in front of your face while they pick your pockets. Fact number 4 is I've done several videos on this windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. And I've challenged people that have had these beliefs and nobody has responded to my challenge. I've thrown down the gauntlet and nobody has picked it up. And if you disagree, this is your opportunity. I haven't had anybody that has said, oh, okay, well, no, you're wrong here, you're wrong there, and actually proved it. They're very emotional about it, but they haven't come up with a viable contention, a argument that disproves my argument. Fact number 5, if this does pass and those few government workers get twice the amount as everyone else, we need to demand the same. So this is the important thing. So basically these retired government workers, it's again, state, local, mostly, they're in Florida, teachers in Florida and cops in Florida, and Texas teachers. California has some, Chicago has some, Nevada has some. And they use the argument that, we serve the public for so long and now you're reducing our benefits and we were public servants and you're reducing your benefits. No. What about the other 95% of cops and teachers and firefighters throughout the country that, are not getting these extra benefits that you're demanding? Their benefits are not affected. Basically what it is these government workers did not pay into Social Security. Their main jobs, they did not pay into Social Security. And because of that, their Social Security benefits are calculated differently. They're not reduced. They're not cut. Their benefits never would. So here's the challenge. That people say, well, my benefits were cut. My benefits were reduced because I happened to work. I was a public official. Okay. Show me anywhere, go onto this My Social Security website and show me the calculations and show me where the cut is. And what they'll do is they'll go into the website and they'll say, hey, it says $1,500 there, but they don't read the fine print. In the current My Social Security print off, the one you used to get in the mail, it has an entire page that says if you are receiving a non-covered pension, windfall elimination provision and government pension offset applies to you. And so that number up there, whatever that number up there, is incorrect. So these are, police officers that have been enforcing the laws. And, I'm driving down the street and my car says, hey, I can go 110 miles an hour. And the cop pulls me over because I'm over 55. Well, the car said I could go 110. See, it shows right there on the speedometer. No, but the posted sign is 55. So it's kind of the same thing. Yes, it says 1600 up there, but you have to read the whole page that says this is a non-covered pension. I'll tell you why there's that difference here in a second. But if this passes and those few, it's about less than about 5% of American workers are receiving this, if they get their checks doubled based on this Social Security Fairness Act, I would like to lead the charge to have the other 95% of people out there that are not getting their checks doubled. I say we start the true Social Security Fairness Act version 2, and we get our checks doubled as well. Okay, so now let's get into the sausage here. I leave this to the very end because most people aren't interested on how it's made. So basically, why these few percentage of people have an issue, it's called the windfall elimination provision. So here's how it happens. I've done this hundreds of thousands of times when I worked at Social Security. You come into Social Security and we say, okay, we're going to give you, we're going to get your benefits. You're going to retire 62, 67, whatever the case may be. We look at your earnings record. This is why it's very important. I always tell people to make sure you check out your earnings record to make sure it's correct, because that's how Social Security determines how much you're going to get for the rest of your life, is based on your earnings record. Okay. So this is a sample, I just typed this up. This is kind of what, when you go into MCS and pull up a SEQI, the modernized claim system, and pull up a summary earnings query in Social Security. Again, I've done this hundreds of thousands of times. You get the person's life history of how much they paid into Social Security. So I just kind of, printed up an example here. So this is, let's say, the earnings record for this person. They look over your high 35 years, but to make it easy, I just put, just a few years here. So this person comes in, and in 1979, they only made about $12,000. I'm trying to make this easy. In 1990, they made $12,000 a year. So they only make about they only made about $1,000 a year, or excuse me, about $1,000 a month when they were working, pretty much over their life. So how Social Security does your calculations is they say, how much is your averaged monthly earnings? So, and they index it for inflation. But to make everything easy, let's say this person, John, comes in, and that John's average earnings throughout their life was $1,000 per month. Okay. So what Social Security does is they multiply this by bin points, 90%, 32%, 15%. Why? In the 80s, it was determined that Congress, I think this is a good law, they said, John here only making $1,000 a month for pretty much all his life. So low wage earner, had some disabilities, whatever the case may be, very, very low wage. And that person was only making $1,000 a month on average. So they multiply that by 90%. So you get a 90% replacement rate. It's kind of a welfare type benefit, basically. Congress has decided when you're low income, John probably doesn't have a 401k, doesn't have any savings, pretty much has been food stamps for probably quite a while. So you're only made very minimum income throughout your life. So we're going to give you more as a replacement. 90% of what your average index monthly earnings are, we're going to give you 90% of that. So John is going to get $900 a month. Okay. We don't want John to be eating out of, cat food cans and out of garbage and stuff like that when they're retired, because no longer able to do that $1,000 job, right? So if John makes more than that, $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, then the multiple is like 32% and then 15%. The more you make, the less percentage. It's progressive like that. Okay. All right. So John is good. He's getting $900 for his retirement. He goes on and hopefully lives a great life, takes advantage, maybe some other programs, Medicaid and all the rest of it. But let's say now Bob comes in and I pull up Bob's, and Bob's is exactly the same. And I say, Bob, you don't have a 401k, you don't have any savings, you've been making $1,000 every month pretty much for your entire life. We're going to give you this welfare type benefit, 90%, you're good. But Bob was a cop or a teacher or a fighter. So this is how the earnings look in Social Security system. There's the top earnings there. That is what your benefit is calculated on. And then if you worked for what's called a non-covered entity, one of those government workers that did not pay into Social Security, your earnings for that are down below. Those are not used to calculate your Social Security benefits. So should Bob receive that welfare benefit that I gave to John, that we gave to John, that Congress gave to John? We gave John 90% because that's the welfare. We gave him basically twice what everybody else. Pretty much Bob here, everybody that made those type of earnings throughout their life, probably $5,000 a month or so, let's say for averaged monthly earnings, gets about a 46% replacement rate, right? So if you make, let's say $10,000, then you get $4,600 back. So, 46% replacement. Low income workers get 90% because they're low income. But Bob is going to get 90% because all we do is look at those. And we didn't look at that. So should Bob get that welfare benefit that John got just because the computer system wasn't able to look at that? And up until 1983, the computer system wasn't notified, Social Security system wasn't notified of those non-covered pensions because the states didn't have to report them, the cities didn't have to report them. So those calculations are wrong. That welfare type benefit was never intended for government workers that made fairly good money. You can obviously argue that, okay, it shouldn't be, okay, the offset shouldn't be this percentage or that percentage, but should those people receive that full 90%? Should firefighter police officer A that made $5,000 on average get 46% replacement rate, but firefighter B gets 90% replacement rate? Is that fair to those 95%? So if this passes and those 5% of retired government workers receive 90%, then I say we pass another act, the Social Security Fairness Act #2. And we demand 90% like the others, those 5% are demanding right now. So there it is. Please remark down below. Every time I've talked to anybody about this, they have always had an issue with it because they have been told things incorrectly for decades and they never realized that was a welfare benefit. Their benefits are not being reduced. They're just not receiving the extra welfare benefit. And once I tell them that, some people, it's like, well, they still don't want to believe it because they want that money. I can see that. But most of the time, 80% of the time, they finally say, okay, all right, I get it now. Nobody has ever explained it to me. And I've done this explanation thousands of times. So hopefully I did it okay here today. Again, if you need any help, because there's issues right now. December 7th is the last day you can change your Medicare Advantage plan, change your Part D plan, and let's make sure you get everything you're entitled to. And join my live Q&A and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Have a beautiful day.